Hey guys, I'm Jacinta and welcome to the Fearlss podcast, where I interview athletes who have achieved incredible things. Today's guest represented Australia in the CrossFit Games in 2018. He was ranked number 4 in Australia. On the podcast today, we talk about CrossFit, training, nutrition, and he also gives some gold nuggets on how you can progress in your training. I'd like to welcome Royce Dunne. Welcome to the podcast, Royce. Now, you're a CrossFitter and you're also a CrossFit coach and a father to 2 beautiful young children. How the hell do you find balance in life?
Good question. Work is super flexible as far as the parenting thing goes. So you do work the early mornings and the late nights, like very similar to a PT, but that affords like a lot of time in the day for training and family time and stuff. And obviously got an incredible wife who takes care of the kids and pulls more than her weight. So that definitely helps out.
Oh, and how old are your kids?
My oldest boy is almost 2.5, like 2 and 4 months. I'm going to crunch the math, but like something like 2 and 4 months. And then my youngest, he's just over 7 months now.
Yeah, and if you guys are listening, you have to check out Royce's kids on Instagram. It just warms your heart. They're so beautiful and they smile and they look so cute with you. So they are really great. And I'll pop all his links below so you guys can check him out. Now, tell us, where did you have a sport before CrossFit that you were into?
Yeah, so my dad's from Melbourne, Victoria, so big AFL family and AFL following. So I played Aussie rules all growing up from like age 5, like your little Oz kick, like pee-wee football all the way through to high school. And then it's just not a big sport in Queensland, obviously, or it wasn't back then. It's getting there now, but so there wasn't a lot of no opportunity to play through school, for example. It was all through external clubs, and it was just getting in the way of school. And then I was just losing passion for it, so I kind of stopped playing that in high school. Whereas if I wished it had been a school sport, I would have played with school friends and probably kept going. But so after that, I kind of just did the gym thing, just like was working out like in Globo gyms, just doing weights, doing bro stuff.
Yeah. And you've got a huge rig. Like, is that from CrossFit or?
Honestly, I think it's just genetics. To the frame is genetics, and I've always put on muscle relatively easy. But I did do your classic like hypertrophy and like powerlifting style training before CrossFit. Mm-hmm. But I've definitely gotten bigger and stronger in CrossFit. So like it got me, so far, but then CrossFit's taking me the rest of the way. Just the more powerful movements that we do lends itself towards more size, I think, than just normal bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Without going full pro bodybuilding, like your gym, just your bro gym stuff is not going to get you, massive results without anyone coaching you or telling you what you're doing wrong.
Yeah. And what was the thing that got you into the CrossFit community? Were you inspired by anybody or?
It was almost an accident. Just one of the PTs I was working with, he was suggesting to us that there's a website called CrossFit.com where
Mm-hmm.
they put up all these workouts for free if you need circuit style workouts, ideas for your clients. Because back then, this was like 2011, 12, CrossFit was still kind of seen as just like a cardio thing.
Yeah.
And no one really knew what it was about, and the sport hadn't like exploded yet, definitely not in Australia. It was starting to get there. And so I went and checked it out, and the workouts looked pretty cool, and I saw like through the CrossFit kind of their media, like all the photos and videos of games, events and stuff that was happening at the time. And so I started trying some of the workouts, and because I knew myself was just super unfit. Like after stopping sport and just lifting weights, like I had no cardio. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do some of this fitness stuff. And it was just so fun. Like it was just addictive. So then I started looking into maybe I should go to an actual CrossFit gym, because I was just doing the workouts at my gym and just thinking, yeah, it's just train, like who cares? But kind of as I discovered, like I said, the game side of things and people competing in this and like how good some people could get, I thought, I don't just want to do this stuff. I want to actually be good at this stuff and like learn how to do the movements properly. So I went and joined a gym, and that's when I encountered the community of it, like which is the real like hidden gem of CrossFit, is the people.
And just for the listeners that don't really know what CrossFit is, tell us what it involves.
Yeah, CrossFit essentially it's a kind of programming. It's a way you program. And so, all the different CrossFit gyms you'll see around Australia, like they're owned independently. It's kind of like the metaphor is like it's like a different dojo. Like they practice their version of karate, like their beliefs, their rules. And so it's kind of cool. You get a different taste of a different style every time you go into a different box. But yeah, in essence, it's a way you program, which is a combination of weightlifting movements, which means moving any load. So, anything from kettlebell swings up to high level Olympic lifts.
Yeah.
You combine gymnastics, anything from as simple as a burpee all the way up to, handstand push-ups and ring muscle-ups. And then like cardio, classic cardio, like running, jumping, biking, rowing. And you just combine those three movements in, as many different ways as you can think up. And the skill of a coach and a programmer is in how long they've been doing it to figure out the combinations that logically work better and get good results, not just like random stuff out of a hat.
Yeah, like obliterate you.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely do that. And some workouts are like that. There's a lot of, it has a military background, like CrossFit kind of born out of like a military ethos. So there is an element of like some workouts are just there for the test. Like this is hard and awful and can you just suck it up? But, day-to-day programming and for like, your soccer mums and like business people and couch potatoes, it's got to be like just simple, smart stuff that will get people their best result and not injure them, keep them healthy, which is the skill of the coach.
Yeah, and you would say that like the general population can get into CrossFit, or is it something that you need to find a specific sort of level of fitness for you to be able to get into it?
Yeah, no, so that's the biggest, I guess, misconceptions. And I think it exists with all fitness, not just CrossFit, but, how many times you hear someone say, I need to get fit before I go to the gym, which is kind of crazy. But that's unfortunately the mentality. But no, anyone can start CrossFit tomorrow. You could jump online and do the workouts from home and just do really basic body weight stuff. But if you want to really get good results and make sure you're going to be safe and well, good technique and stuff, go find a CrossFit box. Almost all of them have like an on-ramp program for beginners. You'll be taken through the steps. You'll find people at your level too. Like no matter how unfit you think you are or how unco you think you are, guarantee you walk into the room and there'll be someone in the room, as good as you or worse. And so you'll find that commonality, and then you see people who are better than you. It gives you kind of like the vision of how you could progress and where you could be.
And I think sometimes people like they're their own worst critic. Like they're like, oh, I'm not fit. But you probably are fit and you could do it. It's just that it's the challenge that makes you feel maybe sometimes not as fit, which I think is quite interesting about CrossFit. It's that you get really addicted to that challenge side. So it always feels like you're never quite there.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the little, taglines that gets thrown around that it's kind of become a joke, but it's very, very true, is the line, it never gets easier, you just get better.
Yeah.
And that can be almost confusing stimulus to people because you can be doing it for 3 or 4 years and still feel like you suck.
Yeah.
But it's because the workouts are meant to challenge you, to make you feel like you're lacking, because if it wasn't, you wouldn't be pushing. But what you can do and what you're capable of, like you just look back at your journey and you would have probably started doing air squats and like pressing with a broomstick.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden you're doing barbell squat snatches at like 60 kilos. It's like that's a huge progression, but the workout still feel the same. Still, an 8-minute workout that still crushes you, but that's the point.
Yeah.
So definitely I think people feel like they're their own worst critic. They feel like they're not progressing, but they're people progressing every day. It's just hard to see it, like your hair growing.
Yeah.
You don't need a haircut until you look in the mirror and realize, oh man, I missed that appointment by like 6 weeks. You don't see your hair growing week to week, and it's very similar with a lot of progression in almost everything, not just fitness, in most things in life, I think.
And so in saying that, why do you think a lot of people get injured in CrossFit? Is it because they're trying to progress too quickly, or do you think that what's your belief?
It's a combination of a couple of factors. One, I think, like I said, CrossFit. Like we said before, CrossFit is technically different, like gym to gym. Like every gym that you go to has a different, flavor or different way they do things. But it can be put under the umbrella of CrossFit, and so being one kind of entity, it's very easy to be like, oh, look at all the injuries or this and that. Whereas you wouldn't just say, oh, commercial gyms injure people, even though the stats would be outweigh how many people walk into a gym, and even just something as simple as pinching their fingers when you're done. But if you counted every injury in a commercial gym, it would outweigh every sport on earth. But it's not one big organization. You can't just say like gyms hurt people. You're like, well, what gym? Where'd you go? Who was there? Who was the start? Everything's a bit more it's unaffiliated, right? Whereas CrossFit's easy to look at as one big organization that's like hurting people everywhere. But really, the injury rate is actually like minuscule. And that's the other factor, which is any exercise. And definitely there's factors, like you said, of people trying to progress too hard or, doing things unsafely or getting caught up. It's a double-edged sword, right? The community helps push you, motivation-wise, but can also get, to the dark side where you want to be too competitive and you want to go too hard and do things you shouldn't. And, the coach can't be at your shoulder every second of the workout, like telling you don't do that. It's silly. So eventually you do something silly when no one's watching and get hurt. But, it's kind of like you either do exercise and risk the chance of very, very small injuries. Like catastrophic injuries are so rare. It's more, little things, RSIs, little niggles along the way, which you can overcome. Or you don't do anything and you'll almost certainly get some kind of sedentary disease anyway.
Yeah.
Or probably still end up with like dodgy knee from sitting down too long at an office desk, or shoulders that you can't put your hand, exactly, frozen shoulder, can't put your hand over your head. So it really is a case of you gotta, get busy living or get busy dying.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Like training clients, you're like, man, you just need to move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
There's a very small risk of very minor injuries, but it's a numbers game. You train 5 days a week for 3 or 4 years, you'll get some kind of injury, guarantee it. But, it's like you drive a car every day for 10 years, guarantee you'll be in a few accidents or praying some doors. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just the rule of large numbers.
Yeah, it's the game you play.
Exactly.
And like, would you say that like stretching is really important, or like dynamic stretching before, and then what about static after? Do you believe in doing that?
A dynamic before, I think, is super important. I think like limbering up, and especially because, vast majority of people live a life that is kind of like the anti-exercise. Like we sit in cars, we sit at desks, we probably sit at home and on a couch in bad posture. And so it's very important before you put your body through, movements that, while natural, are not necessarily normal. So like, a snatch is a natural movement for the body, but you don't often do that in normal life. So you're not prepared for it. The joints don't feel good there the first time you do it, so on and so forth. You need to really, work that range of motion, figure out, even just stretch to see what motion you can do safely before you should stop. Everyone should be able to deadlift off the floor, but not everyone can. Like if you have tight hamstrings, you should deadlift from like a block or something that's higher up and work your way down there. So a good warm up and dynamic preparation is super important. Static stretching after, I mean, like I'm not an expert on recovery protocols, but my kind of principle is something feels good and you think it does something, like it does something.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of the placebo effect, if you read that study, the point was that the placebo effect is a real effect. Yeah. Like people got results from sugar pills. Like it's not in your head. The whole point of the study was it actually can affect your physiology thinking it works.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy static stretching and you feel like that's what makes you, has the best recovery, there's some papers out there that say, it's a waste of time and don't bother and you should just do only triggering. But if you like triggering and stretching, it's whatever it is, but definitely something for recovery is important. Like you can't just burn the candle at both ends. You have to train and then recover. Eat well and sleep well. You got to do all of it. You can't just, even a little bit of all of it, not just like put all your eggs in the train basket, flog your body and then just hope it holds on. Go to work 12 hours a day, like pulling overtime and stuff and not getting sleep and hope you can just run all the calories away. It's not going to happen.
And I think that's the loop people get caught in, because they want to lose weight, but they're working so much. And so they go to training because one, they feel great.
Yeah.
And two, it's like this massive stress relief. And then they don't give back to themselves. So then they get sick constantly, and they're not getting the right nutrition into their body, and they just can't. So then they'll stop training and they'll try and get everything else, and then they go back to training. It's hard, and it's like, oh my God, like just try and do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, 100%, a little bit of everything. And it's almost always less than people think, but for longer. If you did less, if you just, didn't dieted half as hard as you did, but for the whole year, you'd see results. If you cut out even half the soft drink you drink, or even a quarter of it, rather than trying to cut out all of it, but do that forever. If you do half an hour of exercise a day, but you do it for 2 years, that's going to get you better results than these like drastic changes that you almost even know in your heart you're not going to last when you start it, you know?
I remember when I was like, I'm going to drop weight. I'm going to go full on just shakes. And like I did it and I was like, yeah, I feel great the first week. The second week I was like, I don't even want to drink a shake. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But like I was like, I need to lose weight. And I was just tired and lethargic, and you know that it's not right.
Yeah.
And you're so true on having the small like increment changes over a period of time is life changing. You're teaching yourself to develop healthy habits for longer time.
And like you said, an important point, you'll actually enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like it seems so silly, but people will put themselves through, you know, literal hell, with all kinds of like super strict diets or doing like so much training and things they don't want to do, and for a result they think they want, like people think they want abs, or they think they want to lose weight, or they think they want to be a size whatever. What you really want, if you just like boil it down, you know, get super philosophical here, what you really want is to feel good. It doesn't actually matter what you look like, or it doesn't matter what size you are, or what, you know, the numbers quote unquote say. You just want to feel good and look good. And if you want, you know, that size 8 so bad, but 3 weeks into your diet you want to kill yourself because this sucks, you got to think, well, do I want to be a size 8 or do I enjoy my life? Like, which of the two do I want? And not necessarily mutually exclusive. I'm not saying you got to choose between being like fit or happy.
Yeah.
But the point is that your goal shouldn't make you unhappy. Your goal should make you happy. And sometimes, you know, massive sacrifices is warranted for a specific goal. Like if the goal is something like an Olympic gold medal, there's nothing enjoyable about the 4 or 8 years that Olympians work at, the cycles they work in to get, you know, to where they want to be, if that goal's important enough. But then also that doesn't last forever. They know they're going for there's a set date when the medal's going to be won, and then you retire, or you know, maybe you win a few, obviously, but like there is a limit to that. You're talking about lifestyle. You can't set yourself up for a life where you have to be unhappy to be kind of happy because you're hitting this weird arbitrary goal of like, I'm a size 8, I feel great, but I actually don't. Like, you hate your life. So it doesn't make sense, right? You gotta be, you know, okay with the day to day. You gotta be like enjoying your life day to day. And like I said, the confusing part is that people don't want to be a size X, or they don't want to weigh X kilos. They want to feel good. And a lot of that, people don't understand, like, you could maybe, for your height and your weight, you should be a size 10, but you'll look banging.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't actually matter. The numbers are so arbitrary. Like, don't worry about that stuff. Like, do the right steps, and you'll, you know, like we was talking about, the small changes, you know, long term, and you'll look good, you'll feel good, you'll have energy, all those things will tick off automatically. It might not be the weight you think, or the, you know, the size you think. It doesn't matter. If you look good, it doesn't matter what size you are. Yeah.
And like, I can vouch for that. Like, I think that I'm quite heavy compared to most girls. There was a stage I was 74 kilos and like 171 centimeters. And I was like, man, that's huge for a girl. And then I weighed myself. I was like, oh my God, like my muscle mass is huge. And I didn't look like a size, I think it might have, I think I was like a size 10 to 12, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I didn't look like I was a big girl. I looked strong, fit.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's so interesting. And when I was actually little than that, when I was like a size 8, I felt really lean and just disgusting about myself.
Yeah. And exactly, like, you're 171 centimeters, and that's quite tall for a girl. So of course you're going to weigh more than girls, you know, who are 160 centimeters or 150 centimeters. And, you know, and it's little things like, if you work out and you have big lats, and all of a sudden, like, your bra size goes up a lot because you got to get the straps around your lats. Doesn't mean you're getting fat. But you know what I mean? So the numbers do lie. The numbers don't mean anything. They're literally just like measurements. What you, like you said, if you look good and you feel good, doesn't matter whether you're heavier or lighter.
Yeah.
You know, the goals should be about, and that's what I do like about CrossFit, is that the goals are about trying to get people to think, like, you know, focus on what your body can do, like, make your goals performance based. You know, work on the net. There's always another skill to learn, like learn how to walk on your hands, handstand walk. You know, spend a month or so on the gymnastics skills, and you'll probably lean out and lose a bit of weight because you're doing more body weight stuff. Or maybe your goal is to, you know, improve your squat numbers, and so you might get a bit bigger as your muscle improves. But you're gonna look and feel good anyway, and you have these like tangible goals you can focus on, not random numbers that you know have you done the math on like what you should weigh for your height or whatever? Like probably not. Like you just guessed a number based on like some magazine model who's probably only like 5'6". So like, of course, all her numbers are gonna be small.
Yeah.
But if you go for like performance-based goals, there actually is a tangible reward, like squatting your body weight. Like your body weight might be 50 or it might be 100. You can squat your body weight. The number is not important. It's the fact you can squat your body weight.
Yeah.
So like there's cool stuff like that to work towards, which gives you, more long-term focus, more motivation.
Yeah, I was going to say it inspires you, like, because it's like that small wins, and it inspires you to keep going forward with like your journey, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. I can now do a handstand or like what you said, deadlift or snatch or whatever it may be, your body weight, which is really cool to be focusing on that rather than I look in the mirror and I don't feel good about myself. That's not a great focus. That's like going into a vicious cycle right there.
Yeah, 100%.
So in CrossFit then, what is your favorite element?
Honestly, now, these days, my favorite elements in CrossFit are all the gymnastic stuff. So being able to move your body through space, the cool skills that come along with that. And they've progressed a lot of the like potential in the competition side of things in the last few years, like, being able to handstand walk and then handstand walk up a little like ramp or up a set of stairs.
Yeah.
And then even the year I went to the games, they had us handstand walk across 2 parallel bars, so like balancing like a hand on each beam. And like just really fun stuff like that. Like gymnastics movements generally in CrossFit are the ones that don't hurt as much. When I say that, I mean like your heart rate's not through the roof. That's because that's the hardest part of like of the training or of the competing, in my opinion. It's the intensity, which is what they always talk about, which essentially, I'm oversimplifying, but it boils down to your heart rate being high.
Yeah. Like
it's really uncomfortable to have a high heart rate. That sucks. Like that's why swimming is so brutal, because you're holding your breath essentially and your heart rate's through the roof. Like lifting barbells and like strength stuff is like fun, and that kind of hurts like your muscles, like squatting and pressing and stuff. And gymnastics hurts in that way too, but you're generally going to have a pretty low heart rate during most gymnastics movements because your muscle fails before you run out of steam essentially.
Yeah.
So it's more technical. It's more like playing a game of chess. Like when do you kick up and how far do you push the envelope before you're going to fail versus the person next to you, and kind of that race of like, it's kind of like a race in slow motion in a way, versus like the more frantic elements of CrossFit, like your high power output movements that are just like an actual race. So as I progress through the game and as you get older in the competition scene, you get more jaded and less willing to hurt and kind of like just old and grumpy. Yeah, I like to look for the stuff that has me not hurt as much, which is the fun stuff like gymnastics. Yeah,
I think that stuff's cool because it's like fun. It's like play. It brings you back to being a kid.
Exactly.
And trying to, especially like balancing stuff and like handstands. Everybody generally wants to be able to do a handstand.
Yeah.
Or if you don't, then you probably haven't tried, and then you want to do it.
Yeah, people you can be scared of it, but like if you ever go into so we like run like in our gym, we run concurrently with the CrossFit classes, like an actual adult gymnastics class.
Yeah.
And like we'll have some people come in who've like never even considered like going up on their hands, like that's crazy, like, and they got the injuries, whatever, and they kind of, we show them the progressions. They like do a handstand off a box, or they have someone spot them, and you just watch these people like turn to a kid again. And it's like, it's amazing, like watching the walls come down and they're like realizing what they could do, what they're capable of. Like weightlifting stuff is the flashy stuff. Like it's awesome to watch someone lift like the weight of a small motorbike over their head and stuff like that, like lift heavy bars, and it feels cool to do it too. But gymnastics, I don't know, it's the mastery of your body. Like now you're moving your body through space and doing like these wonderful cool skills. Like that's kind of a bit more primal in my opinion, like mastery over your own weight. You know, you are the weight in gymnastics. You're the weight you're lifting is you, and moving it through space. So it's pretty cool. That's
what I love about like calisthenics, like doing the pistol squats, the pull-ups, the stuff, like you need the flexibility plus you need the strength, which is really awesome.
So that stuff is super impressive because they do it so slowly and so strict too. Like a lot of CrossFit gymnastics, because CrossFit in general follows an idea of power output, like getting the most work done in the shortest amount of time. And so a lot of the gymnastics utilizes kipping, utilizes the power of the body, but to like the calisthenic stuff is that painfully slow almost, like that real just pure strength, like that's really impressive stuff, because it's, obviously the slower you do something, the exponentially harder it gets.
Yeah.
You're putting your body through so much more tension over such a longer time.
So you have this title, Strongest on Earth. Tell us about what that actually means.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing. That started in the 2018 games that I went to. They retested a classic CrossFit benchmark workout called the CrossFit Total, which essentially is the powerlifting total, your max deadlift and your max squat, but they add in the overhead press, so it becomes more functional than a bench press. And so you do a max, 1 RM overhead press, 1 RM squat, 1 RM deadlift. And they used it the very, very first CrossFit games as a kind of like a, just your test of strength.
Yeah.
And they brought it back in the year that I went, 2018, as like a, let's see how far everyone's come, as an event, obviously, but also you can compare these, hey, 10 years later, not every single person virtually beat, the score from the strongest guy back then, or whatever the data showed. And so I was fortunate enough to win that event.
Wow.
So it became, the quote strongest on earth, because the CrossFit title, when you win the games, your title is the fittest on earth.
Yeah.
And so it became the joke that it's the strongest on earth for winning the total.
Which would have been so cool. Like, were you in the stadium when this all happened?
Yeah. So, well, it was kind of funny because I was in heat 1, and I was like, a couple of 40 or 50 pounds, because it's all in America, it's all in pounds. I was 40 or 50 pounds ahead of the guys in my heat. So it was a good, heat victory. Like, pulling that last deadlift was pretty epic, like the crowd cheering and stuff, because we're in this big outdoor stadium.
Yeah.
And then kind of you get marshaled and sent back to the warm-up area, and you kind of got to walk this little route. And so the time I got back into the kind of athlete area, heat 2 had gone, and I saw that, no one beat me. And heat 3 was on, and heat 3 was all like the heavy hitters, like the household names.
Yeah.
And but the thing about CrossFit though is like the best CrossFitters are the least specialized. Like, they're good at everything.
Right.
And so you don't see a lot of people who would excel in any one event. Like, you still see home run hitters, but it wasn't surprising that none of those guys beat my total, because they're all really well rounded. They probably don't put the time into the strength numbers and stuff, or they're not particularly specialized, even naturally physically gifted in one particular area. They're very well rounded individuals.
Yeah.
Because a big, stronger, heavy person like myself then is not going to be as fast or as agile as those guys. And so you kind of get your wins and your losses,
which is cool, because then all of you get like a really cool chance when it comes to the games, because it's all points, isn't it?
Yes. So it's accumulation of all the events. That's the thing. Like, you can't declare the winner until all the events are done and you've tested everything. Like, if you just called the event after 2 events, of course, 2 people who have no business winning the games would be in the lead, because they're just good at those one events.
Yeah.
So you got to compare everyone across. That's why there's no weight classes, because the big guy might lift more weight, i.e. me, but the little guy is going to crush me on the muscle ups. Yeah. So you've got to, there's no point having a weight class, because everyone gets their comeuppance eventually, essentially, and everyone gets their day to shine as well. And
that's
so
awesome.
I was watching that third heat, and there was one guy, actually, a Canadian guy, Vellner, Patrick Vellner. He's very, very good. He podiumed multiple years. Like I said, one of the household names. He has a monster deadlift. Just got great like hamstrings. He's really good at pulling off the ground, and he deadlifted 595 pounds, and nearly 600 pounds. About 280 kilos.
Holy hell!
It was very impressive, and that put his score, because you only get 3 attempts. He probably could have pulled more if he'd gotten a 4th attempt, but that's not the game. And his score came 5 pounds under mine, and so I just held him off for the win. But that was a pretty cool moment, knowing that, oh wow, when I saw the weight he put on the bar, I realized he wasn't going to beat my score, even if he gets it. Yeah. And so it was a pretty cool feeling to be like, wow, I just won an event at the CrossFit Games. Pretty special.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us, what's your PB for, like, let's go like deadlift?
The best deadlift I've ever pulled is 260.
Oh my God. Yeah. What about squat?
225. That's my best squat. High bar back squat.
And then overhead press?
102.5, which was my body weight at the time.
And 2.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man. That's insane.
So at the games, I hit 100 on the press.
Yeah.
It was 213 on the squat and 256 on the deadlift. So very, very close to those PBs.
Yeah.
In a competition setting, which is super challenging, because you have about half an hour to warm up before your event, and you got to warm up all 3 lifts at the exact same time, because when you go out there, you get 4 minutes for the squat.
Yeah.
And at 4 minutes, the clock is already still running to give you 4 minutes for the press.
Oh.
And then at 8 minutes, your 4 minutes starts for the deadlift. So it's like bang, bang, bang.
So 16 minutes straight. Ready
12
to go.
minutes straight.
12
minutes straight.
Yeah.
You get 3 attempts at each. You better be warmed up already because you only get 3 attempts.
Yeah.
And like, so it had been about 20 minutes since I'd pulled a deadlift.
Yeah.
I'd squatted and pressed, but then the deadlift was like almost felt cold.
Yeah.
Physically you were warm, but it was, mentally it's really hard to execute in those conditions. So that's what makes competition so much more fun for me personally, and what makes it like the real test, I guess, is that it's not in your gym, it's not your conditions. You don't get to choose when you go. Random things happen on the floor, and they like, you're being told you're going out in 2 minutes, but all of a sudden you're actually waiting like 8 minutes, and so your warm-up's all messed up. But like, just things happen, right? Like, it's like any sport, right?
Yeah.
Things affect you that are out of your control, and what you can control is then, do you go and execute anyway? Like, can you go out there and still do it? And that's what the champions do. The guys who win, obviously, I'm not talking about myself, but that's what champions do in general, is they go out there and they just execute anyway.
Yeah. And like, as an elite athlete, like in the CrossFit games and prior, how important is your nutrition? Like, are you quite dialed in, or?
Well, I'm famously not. Well, here's the thing about nutrition is that, yes, it is. Like, a short answer is it is insanely important. How that looks like is the debate, right? Like, I know athletes who are so clean, like I'm talking like, bodybuilding levels of like measuring out their macros to the gram, and they have and they have all their meals, and they eat at certain times and whatever, and they achieve great success. And there are people who literally don't, just go 100% by feel, eat takeout, like whatever, and they have potentially even more success. Yeah. And so the secret, the nutrition is definitely one of the ingredients, but how that looks is I guess debatable. It is like a bit of that, if it fits your macro style, where as long as you're eating to what your body and what your kind of mentality feels comfortable with, and you feel good going to a training session because you've eaten enough, whether it was a huge meal half an hour before, or it was like 5 meals across the day, or if you prefer to go into the workout kind of a bit more fasted, maybe you haven't eaten for 2 hours, like whatever it is, as long as it's working for you, then it's working. Yeah. Right. Nutrition, in my opinion, needs to be something that's taken care of to the point where you're not thinking about, like, it's not a worry. Yeah. If you're worrying about nutrition, then it's an issue. But if it's one of those things where you don't consider it, you just go in there, it's taken care of, and you can do your thing. You can just go in there and focus on getting the work done. Then you're doing well.
Yeah. And I think too, then, exactly what you just said at the end, you can really focus on what you're there to do, rather than, have I eaten the right thing? I don't know how I'm going to feel, and like I'm regurgitating it, like all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Especially if it's not something that you particularly like and you're trying it. I think usually for me, myself, like keeping things quite similar and to what you enjoy seems to work quite well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it depends on the goals too. Like in this context, where I was talking about like athletes, just everyday person, like obviously you always want to choose more healthier options and what I mean by that is like less calorie dense foods. Like you don't want the same calories in one mouthful of a food that you could get from a palm sized serving in another. Like this is a really, like, even if you're trying to gain weight, you should be eating more like whole foods, like more real foods that aren't as calorie dense, but eat more often, So as a general rule, I think nutrition is very, it's a big can of worms, but I think as a general rule, it's not as confusing as we kind of make ourselves think it is. Like I think in your gut, everyone knows what a good meal looks like, and we have known that for hundreds of years, and what a healthy plate looks like and what an unhealthy plate looks like. It's not rocket science. So I think if most people like look at their nutrition and feel like, I've quote tried so many things and what's working and what are the answers, whatever, it's just write a food journal down of what you eat in a week, because I guarantee the problem is really obvious. It's there. You just don't think about it when you're in it. But if you write down a food journal, you'll see clearly like, wow, I don't eat enough, or whoa, I'm eating so much takeout, or look at all these like sweets in between, like, they don't even count as food, but the calories, and you put them in your body, and or I don't eat any calories, I just eat like all this stuff that's like, no real sustenance, no real nutrition. I think I'm eating a lot, my body's starving. Like it's the answer is almost always pretty simple. You just got to know what you're looking at. And then, go to the supermarket, buy meat, buy veg. Like it's like, we know what to eat. I think everyone kind of quote knows in their gut, in their heart.
I think people are looking for that quick fix, and I think that's the problem. They're like, I want to get, I want to be like an athlete. The majority of people that train want to train like an athlete, and they're like, oh, I want to eat like that. And then, so they're like, oh, what's easy? And I'll pick this, and I'll get this takeaway food, and I'll get the quick and easy because I work so much. But really, you need to take it back a notch and just go back to basics. And you're right.
Exactly. I think we've all kind of been fooled into thinking it's really complicated, and then so you kind of don't even know where to start. But someone told me that X is true, but if someone else says that Y is true, and that X can't be right, and so you get so overwhelmed. But it's like I said, if you're not an athlete, it's really not that important. Like, as long as you just keep the motor running. You know what I mean? Like, keep the body going and feeling good, like putting in good stuff that the body was meant to eat because it exists in nature. What's that great life hack where they say, like, if you can draw a picture of the ingredient, then it's probably good to go. Like if they say ingredient in this is like apple, and you can draw an apple, but if it's like color 4, you can't draw color 4, so probably it's not great for you. And there's exceptions to that. Obviously, there's a lot of cool, amazing chemicals in modern, food science that like have contributed to our health, keep food stable for longer, or keep bacteria out, or whatever. But as a general rule, like, if something exists in nature, it's probably good to eat. Like fruits and vegetables that, are real things. They're good. Like random like products on the shelf that are made of something else but shaped into what you want to eat, probably not great for you. You know what I mean? Like, but find a treat with, like, you can have you can have a donut every now and then, but as long as your meals, like, you're fueling the body with like good stuff, you can put like, it's like when people put like, like oil additives or whatever into their fuel tank to like improve performance. Like, great, but you can't put just motor like additive into your tank, like no petrol. Like, you need to just put the base stuff in there, and then you can play around with all the fancy stuff you like and experiment. Like, great, like, go for it. Like, what are you're gonna lose a month of your life if the diet's bad and you don't like it, or you put on weight, whatever, just go back. Like, it's really not that permanent. That's the other thing. People are so worried about nutrition and weight and stuff like that. It's like, it's very transient. Like, you can play around, you can experiment, you can have fun with it.
And the good thing about experimenting is not everything works for the same person.
Exactly.
Like, they're going to try different things to see whether your body functions better on high fats or low carbs or whatever it may be.
An easy example is I love dairy. Like, I get a lot of my calories and a lot of my hydration, to be honest. Like, milk has more electrolytes than a lot of like sports drinks and much less sugar. But a heap of people in the population are lactose intolerant. So obviously that's not a great recommendation for them. So, that's a really easy example of like, that you got to play around with like what works for you. And some people who aren't technically lactose intolerant still find dairy to like bloat them and make them feel crappy and probably get a bit of inflammation of their stomach lining or whatever, if you wanted to get into the science of it. But so, it's as simple as when you're on dairy, you don't feel great, you feel bloated. Cool, stop eating cheese for breakfast. Like, it's simple. Like, all right, try something else. Like, like I said, keep it simple and just return to what kind of we instinctually know is good meals, good food, meats and vegetables. If you don't eat meat, there's plenty of it's never been a better time to be vegetarian or vegan these days with all the alternatives they create and make. So it's pretty easy to get what you need.
But even being like, I am vegan, but even being vegan, I know vegans and that do not eat healthy. And I'm like, it comes back to the same concept. Even if you do eat meat, like, go back to natural foods, whole foods, things that are made from the earth and eat that. Like, don't substitute with this packet, like you said. Vegan stuff has got chemicals in it too if you read it properly. Like,
the best one is all like the treats, like the vegan brownie, and they're like, oh, it's so healthy. Even non-vegans like, oh, vegan brownie means there's nothing artificial. It's like, but it's still like your day's worth of calories in a mouthful and a half. Like, that's the problem with like desserts, is that they taste so good because there's so much, sugar is a natural thing. Sugar exists. You can cut, I've been to farms. You can cut the cane off and suck the sugar straight from the sugar cane. It's delicious. It's beautiful. It's natural. Doesn't mean it's not going to give you 2,000 calories in one meal. Like, it's anything in excess is bad. That applies to all the macros. You can't, if you're having 14 protein shakes a day, you probably need to check your liver enzymes because you're overdosing. If you're having like I said, hundreds of grams of sugar a day. Sugar is natural and good for your body in certain ways, but not hundreds of grams of it. And if you're eating more fat than the protein on a steak, or processed meats from burger joints and stuff, and the reason why fast food tastes so good is because it's all the fat of the meat, not the meat. Then anything in excess is destructive to the body, because if you're excessing in one macro, you're by definition deficient in another. Because you only eat so much in a day.
Absolutely. And I think you can tell that by the body.
Definitely.
Like, you can see whether it's like your skin looks amazing, or your hair, or your performance, your energy, stuff like that. So going into the CrossFit Games, that was 2018?
Yes, that was my year,
What was your game plan?
Honestly, not that year. I didn't expect to qualify that year. I honestly didn't think I was ready as far as like up to scratch performance-wise. But that's the beautiful thing about competition, is that you just go out there and do your thing. You work in the gym essentially by yourself, like with training partners and stuff, but essentially in isolation for the whole year. And you went out to things like the regionals and you got to showcase, and it just so happened that my performances stacked up really well, which you wouldn't know until you stack them up. And so I happened to qualify, and so it was kind of like a big shock, and I'd actually rolled my ankle severely at regionals. It was a grade 3 tear of the ATFL, which is basically just meant that one of the ligaments had completely ruptured. So it was like a couple of weeks of couldn't do any of the stuff that I'm actually bad at. So long distance running, jumping, skipping, these more endurance-y based stuff.
You got to be careful as well, because you can make it worse.
Exactly. If I re-rolled it, it probably would have had to be surgical, right? So it was definitely a case of just don't, F it up. And so the games prep was kind of not, I didn't really prep for the games like a lot of the professionals do, where it's, because when the game's going to be, you definitely do periodize your training. It's not the classic CrossFit idea of just be generally fit. It's no time to practice the certain specific skills you'll see at the games, more outdoorsy stuff, and also taper up that fitness to the so you're peaking at the game, so you're not your best shape of your life the week before or the week after. You want to be in the best shape of your life for the games, and so my prep wasn't ideal, but so the game plan was 100% just, which would say you should never do this because it's not how competitors should treat a competition, but it really was a case of go there and have an amazing experience and just see what happens. There wasn't a goal of everyone says if you're going to go there, you should plan to win, even if by the stats and by the numbers it looks like you're not going to win. You should still have the mentality, because if you plan to win or you play to win, you might come 10th because you're not good enough to win, but if you didn't play that way, you'd come 30th. You're always going to do better if you're playing to win, if you're going for it. And so but like I said, for me that wasn't the case. So it was fantastic, and like I said, got an event win, still had some performances I'm really proud of, but I definitely felt like the body wasn't prepared like it should have been for the games for me. There was a marathon row we had to row, and I cramped up horribly because I just hadn't prepared for that kind of time domain, that longer effort. But that was a natural weakness of mine anyway. That's where I knew I had to put in work, is on the longer, more drawn out efforts, whereas your shorter maximal efforts is more to my natural body type, and so that's obviously what you're good at. People like what they're good at, and you don't like what you're not good at. But you got to kind of suck it up and I guess work against that in CrossFit. Find the things you're not good at and make sure that you might never be the best at your worst thing, but you need to make sure you won't lose it all because of one movement. You just need to try and just middle the pack, and then you can go and win the ones you're good at and get all the points there.
So was there a moment at the games that you were like, I don't want to keep going?
No. It was every moment was like, this is awesome. Like this is
that
CrossFit
because
Games.
of the surroundings and it felt a bit surreal for you?
100%. Yeah, it's definitely surreal, and it's crazy to be surrounded by such a cohort of amazing athletes. Some of them, as I said, like a lot of them household names that you grow up watching.
Yeah.
And also the fact that you just know that like nothing's guaranteed. Like you might never make it back again. This could be the only shot, and it's kind of weird. Like it's not a professional sport on the level of say like walking out onto the field for an NFL grand final of a Super Bowl, or like for an NRL grand final or something crazy. But it's still like you're about to take the floor in front of like 4,000 people who are cheering. Like the average person will never get that chance to like even like a local touch game. You can't get enough people to the game. You know what I mean? Like it's you never get the opportunity. Most people never get the opportunity to participate in anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely like every moment. Even so, after the row, almost everyone was like completely battered. Like I'm talking like I could barely step up onto a street curb because my hip wouldn't flex that far, like pain free. Like it was shattered, but it was still like, but this is awesome because who else gets to do this stuff?
Yeah.
And so the way it worked was we had the row on Wednesday, Thursday was like a day off.
Yeah.
And then Friday was back on, and kind of come Friday you were like still really sore but a lot better. And you'd warm up, and then 3, 2, 1 go, the adrenaline kicks in, and you just felt nothing. You felt no pain. It was like it's time to party. So yeah, it was awesome. I felt great the whole weekend. Physically not, but I was like fired up the whole weekend.
Yeah. And like, do you have like after the games, is it like when athletes do like an ultra marathon, it takes days to recover? Is it the same after?
I think it depends on the games. Because every games has obviously different combinations of workouts, and all the workouts are hard, but some just hit differently, I guess, like just for whatever reason. You only speak to my experience, obviously, but I've obviously talked to other athletes. But in my experience, after this games, my body was wrecked because, like I said, it was just a lot of events that not in my body's natural time domain. So like the marathon row. The very first event was a crit race, which wasn't that long. Like on a bike, that's not a very far play because crits are essentially sprints. Yeah. It was like 10K on the bike, which is very short distance on a bike and fast. But that's just like, it's still kind of endurance-y, right? It's definitely not a 6-minute event.
Yeah.
And then obviously we had the total wedge in there, which just kind of, even though it's only one rep of everything, it like just really drains you.
Yeah.
Then the marathon row, and then all the events that came after for the rest of the weekend were just kind of like, just kept piling on top.
Yeah.
So when I got home from the game, and plus the long flight to the States and stuff, when I got home, the body was not nearly as wrecked as you'd imagine it would be, but certainly it was like even just mentally, I was like, I don't want to like work hard for a while. Like I kept training because like I just like to move. It just like we were talking about before, it's part of it's mentality. It's like a stress release, and it's just part of your lifestyle. But it was things like I would just do the class workout at my gym and not go very hard, like just sandbag all the workouts, because I think physically, like nothing crazy, like all the soreness in my body was essentially from like cramping and stuff. Like it was just muscles being depleted and kind of spent, no injuries, nothing super devastating. And so physically it kind of bounced back relatively quick. Maybe a month I was back to like quote peak. And within a couple of weeks I was feeling pretty good. But just mentally I was like, I don't want to hurt in workouts. I don't want to like compete quote unquote in the gym. That makes sense, because you kind of do in training. You're kind of competing with the clock, with the person next to you or whatever, even though you're training and you're getting ready for real competitions. It kind of bleeds into the training a bit.
Well, you're trying to be the best that you can, so you are prepared to
100%. You're trying to practice that push when there's someone on your shoulder who's just waiting for you to rest or give up.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to simulate that. Like you always get more wiped from competition because you find that extra gear that by definition doesn't exist in training, because there isn't someone on your shoulder.
Yeah.
But for me after the games, it was just this like, I'm just going to move and just not even hurt, like keep my heart rate like under 120, like nah.
And I think that's so good that you did continue to move, because the body was recovering. And I think if you didn't move, then you're more likely to be more not seized up, but like not condition, like not moving out that lactic build up and the soreness that the muscles are had. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's just like when you start. If you go from doing nothing and you start training, and even if you start really slow and properly at a gym or something, it's, you know, everyone knows that you are guaranteed to get really sore when you start any exercise, right? Like whether you overdo it or even if you do it properly, there's still a degree of soreness, and it's probably still way more than you are ready for. And just like, because it's a big change.
Yeah.
And just like going from zero to exercise, I feel like going from exercising a lot to zero is an equally drastic change and shock on your body, which you shouldn't do. You should taper out of intense training. You should, you know, ease off slowly. You shouldn't just no more of that.
Yeah.
Because the body, I believe the body is very shocked by that, like chemically, hormonally, like all the processes have changed. You're not putting your body through this demand, and it's also something that you are, you know, mentally and like you know, conditioned to psychologically to be in this routine that just ends. It's very like I think it's jarring. I think you should like move, as you say, not exercise, not train, move.
Yeah,
we were built to move, you know.
Agreed. And like, do you have goals to go back to the games? Is that your 2020 goal?
Yes, definitely. So we got I was last year. I switched to team competition because there's a big restructure of how CrossFit's kind of competitive season worked, and a lot of logistical changes on their part as a company, and so it kind of just opened up. Just the landscape of the competition made the team a bit more attractive.
Yeah. And
so I put together a team. Well, sorry, I was invited onto a team that is basically the athletes that are all on the programming that I follow.
Yeah.
So they're all in America, and so we put together a team and we went to a few of the different like kind of qualifying events, you could call it. There was one in Ohio in America. There was one in Paris in France, and we had a couple of cracks at qualifying, and we got really close in the one in Paris, but it just kind of didn't shake out. So we missed our chance to go to the games, but. Team has always been fun. Like in my opinion, like most sports are team sports, and like I am like from that background of a team sport. So while individual CrossFit is a blast, something cool about team, right? There's something that's, you know, a bit more quote like a sport. And so we all decided, the four of us decided, we'll go again this year. Like we'll make a real crack at getting there. So that's our plan for sure. We have an event coming up in March. It's here on the Gold Coast. Here in Australia on the Gold Coast, and that'll be our bid to try and qualify. We'll do a few other events as well, either if we need to do more events if we don't qualify, but even if we do, kind of as practice, and then we'll go to the games, and we'll give it like a real push. The plan will be, you know, training all year and everything geared towards like going to the games and making a splash, not just participating and having fun.
Yeah.
And that's the goal for 2020, and then possibly 2021 back to individual. I'll see how we feel. Like it's, you know, motivation is elusive sometimes. Like it's hard to really pin down like what gets you fired up, or at least for me it is anyway. So team is exciting now, and maybe will be more exciting after the games. Potentially it might be less exciting, and so then back to individual, where kind of, you know, the glory is greater because it's you, like it's all your glory, but it also means that all the shame is yours too. Whereas a team kind of evens out those peaks and valleys. I find like you win as a team, which is a great feeling to share victory, and also to know that, you know, to be proud of the people on the team that might have, you know, essentially carried you, or someone really locked something in an event. It's like, you know, this was basically on them. Like the rest of the team did our job, but this person, like, you know, really carried us. And then also it means that the shame and the loss is like shared amongst the four of you, and you got someone to be like, look, you know what, let's go heads up and we'll get out there. Yeah, it's that second half speech, right? Like, come on boys, like we'll get them in the second half. Like let's, you know, it's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
Whereas individual can be very lonely when you're hitting that point, and definitely there's some moments of self-doubt where you're like, maybe I'm just bad. Maybe I deserve this finish, and I'm not a good athlete because, you know, that's what the scoreboard's saying. So, and that which is something you have to overcome in competition, obviously. But
how do you overcome that? Because I'm sure a lot of people feel that anyway, just with general fitness.
Yeah.
Like even if they just go for a run and they're playing this mental game. Like, what's your?
honestly, what got for a long time. Before CrossFit kind of changed everything over, they had what they called the regionals. So you essentially did this massive like worldwide online competition called the Open. If you placed high enough in the Open, you would progress to the regionals, which are like the official CrossFit run qualifying events.
Yeah.
And the top 5 from each of those events, top 5 men, top 5 women, and the top 5 teams would go to the CrossFit Games. It was like the ultimate, like to even go to regionals was like pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And to be one of those top 5, you were the man, like you were the chick, like you were like, you know, a cyborg of fitness. Like, yeah, you were pretty awesome. And for years, I was just trying to qualify for regionals, just trying to make it to that little group. Even the regionals is the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
And just to make it that little group of people to say I could. And I had a couple of years where 1 or 2 workouts or 1 or 2 movements in a workout I sucked at enough that it completely like tanked my chance. Like just the ranking didn't shake out and I was way off.
Yeah.
And it is like that. You do feel like maybe I'm just not good enough. Like it could be simple as that. Like, you know, everyone wants to win, but only one person does. Like, you know, that means that everyone else just wasn't good enough, which is obviously a hard pill to swallow. And the way I personally became it was just that I figured I love what I did anyway. Like I just enjoyed the process. Like I liked the training. I enjoyed it. I liked feeling like I was getting better. I knew I was getting better. It wasn't good enough yet, but I was definitely getting better and I enjoyed that. And so that kept me going. And then when it finally, like I said, when it finally kind of popped and I made it even without expecting it, that's when you kind of really realize that you don't know how far you can progress until you get there. You just got to love the process, keep going with it. And essentially, I guess it depends on the person, but as a general rule, there's no time limit. You know, everyone, even we take it back from competition, like you said, like the average person, like a big one I see in all the time in our gym is people get really depressed about not learning a skill fast enough. Like, oh, I've spent 6 months working on, let's say, a muscle up. That's the big one. Everyone wants a muscle up. I spent 6 months on this. I'm doing all the drills, everything. I just can't get like, what's wrong with me? It's like, well, for starters, have you been having fun the whole time? Because if you have been, then you've lost nothing because it was fun. And 2 is that nothing's wrong with you. Like, why are you worried about not getting your muscle up in 6 months? Why are you worried about not getting the muscle up in a year? If it took you 10 years, is that such a bad thing? Like, who said it had to take you 2 weeks? Like, because someone else did it in 2 weeks, it's irrelevant. You know, like there's no time limit on this stuff. Like, you can always be better next year. Like, just because you fail today doesn't mean you're a failure. Because tomorrow you wake up and it's like it never happened. Like Rich Froning, who's one of the most decorated CrossFitters, like he's won the most championships, individual and team. Yeah. And he used to always say, he'd be like, the day after the CrossFit Games, you know, get the medal. It's like he's a champion, like huge paycheck, like everyone loves him. Like the day after you wake up, it's like you're not the champ anymore. It's a new calendar year. The champ hasn't been decided for this year yet. It's back to the garage, back to work. Yeah. Because you don't get to rest on your laurels. You don't get to rock up and be like, well, I won last year, so I'll just take that checker back, please. You know, like it's a new year. So if all the accolades and successes of him is wiped away the next day, all the failure and loss of everyone else is wiped away too. Like everyone's back to equal. Yeah. Everyone's a potential champion again on day 0. Doesn't matter if you lost last year. You're a potential champion today. Yeah. And that's, you know, easy to say and hard to believe, but that really is the secret to succeeding at anything like business, fitness, you know, you name it, is just believing that there is no such thing as failure. It's just you didn't win today. Yeah. And every, you know, any motivational speaker, you could grab Tony Robbins, whatever, like you name it, any book you can find in any bookstore in the world under self-help, it all says the same thing, it's fail forward. Yeah. It's like failure today is not failure. It's just missing the mark slightly.
It's try progressing again. You forward.
Yeah. Most things in life, there are very small exceptions, but most things in life, you kind of have unlimited chances. Like just keep going, keep trying, have another crack. Like it's all right. You didn't get your weigh-in goal or whatever little goal you're trying to hit. It's all right. Try again. Like you fail the quote 8-week challenge at your gym or whatever. It's all right. There's another 8 weeks. I'm pretty sure. Like, is the world ending? Like, go again. Another 8 weeks. Like, there's almost always a chance to try again. There are very few people who are in the unfortunate circumstance where it might have been the only shot. Yeah. And I can't give advice to those people. I have no idea. I'm sorry. If that's you, if you know, someone is like their last Olympics and they missed a shot at a gold medal, or they have a career-ending injury or something, I'm sorry. I have no experience in how to deal with that.
But that's when they can reflect over what they have achieved. And I think sometimes when you're so fixated on the goal, you maybe haven't looked at what you have achieved during that period.
100%.
And I think that's the great thing about Instagram, Facebook, is we tend to put up these small wins so that sometimes when you have failed, you can look back and go, oh man, I've done freaking awesome over the last year.
Yeah.
I've achieved heaps.
People talk about all the time about how Instagram is like the highlight reel. It's like, oh, don't look at Instagram, it'll depress you because it's everyone's highlight reel. Like no one puts their failures up on Instagram. It's the highlight reel. It's okay. Yeah, okay. So you should have your own highlight reel on Instagram that you can go on and just look back at your own profile and like be your own motivation. Like look at this stuff you've done and look at how like, you know, scroll back a few like to the bottom of your like posts and be like cringe, like, oh my God, how bad was I? Look at this. Oh, who is that person? Look at you now. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's it's Instagram's your own little like, it's funny, like my phone keeps getting full of memory all the time. I'm trying to like film something. Got to keep like wiping these photos and videos and stuff. And I'm always like, oh, but what if I want to like rewatch this one time? Then I realized, oh, it's on Instagram. Yeah. It's like saved on some, you know, $1 billion server and like in at Instagram HQ. Like I can wipe it off my phone. There's essentially a permanent record of your highlight reel forever, or whatever you feel like you want to put on your Instagram. It's your Instagram. If you like to put up your failures to like show people, you know, hey, it's not always roses. And then you have that. You can go back and be your own life coach and look at the lessons and be like, wow, look at when I felt like it was worth posting about how I sucked because of X lesson. That's still relevant. A month later, go back and read it and re-inspire yourself, and then look at all the wins that you have on there, and it's on there forever, essentially. Like I can't imagine the Instagram servers shutting down anytime soon. Certainly, their servers will probably outlast the hard drive on your computer that you think you have all your photos backed up, and then you realize that like who even knows where like stuff from a year ago is and what computer it's on, and you replace your Mac all the time, and you know nothing's ever really that permanent. But Instagram's a pretty awesome little permanent library of all the things you ever feel like was good enough to post in the first place.
Exactly. And like in saying that, what would be your best advice for people going out there and wanting to create more of a healthy lifestyle? What would you believe would be the key things?
It's funny, ironically you say that because just recently, so my wife, we obviously have 2 kids, so she was pregnant with our eldest for 9 months. Had a few months where she actually came back to training at the gym when they had babysitting, and then she got pregnant with our second son. He's 7 months, so 9 months before that, you know, whatever it was, like 16 months, like over a year of essentially like, you know, being pregnant and raising kids with a small, more like 3 years, but a small little break where she went back to training. But so she hasn't trained during her pregnancy because she didn't feel like she'd trained enough going into it to keep it up, which you can definitely do, but just for her it was probably smartest to just take it easy and not stress the body. So she's finally getting back into training and like wanting to, you know, quote, get her body back, her words, not mine, because you know you spend so long essentially being pregnant and being a mum of an infant. Like it's a long time out of your life where your body is not really yours, because you know all kinds of freaky stuff happens when you're pregnant. Like everyone, you know, women would know obviously. You get hijacked essentially by the processes, and so she's finally getting back to like, okay, like we both want to stop after 2 kids, so 2's enough, and okay, no more quote pregnancy to worry about, time to just get back to her normal kind of what she used to do. And but the crux of it all is that she actually hates exercise. Like she's always hated training. Like, she doesn't enjoy it. It's not fun for her. It's just a means to an end.
Yeah.
And so her whole thing is like, I hate this, but I want the result. Like, what do you do? And so I've been writing her workouts that she's been doing at home at our little home gym. And like literally, I'm talking like the longest workout she's done to date over the last like month has been 16 minutes. It's like 5-6 minute workouts. We do the CrossFit methodology of she does 3 days of training and then 1 day of rest. We just repeat that cycle, you know, forever.
Yeah.
And it's like just super simple stuff. And some of the workouts, like she finds them really hard just because she's been inactive for so long. And you know, your body kind of is coming back from all the changes it's been through pregnancy, so you kind of don't even really know your own body and what it feels like. And Some of the workouts she finds really easy. Like they're probably too easy. Like she's finished it quicker than I thought she would. And it's kind of like, oh, I could probably do another round of that. But we don't, because back to one of my first points was it's about truly it's about little steps daily. I mean, how many self-help books have you read, or whatever, like I said, Tony Robbins, whatever, that have said, they all say the same thing. They all say that stuff. Your Instagram business coaches, whatever. But that is the truth. It is the small steps daily, and it's so easy to quit anything. But if it's just like, even like last night, like we had just some stuff happen, and so she didn't get to the workout until like 6 p.m. It's like time to have dinner and bath the kids. Like they're tired, so they're starting to scream. It's like the worst time of night. It's awful. And it would have been so easy to say, like, I'm just not doing it. Like, it's hectic. Like, look at these kids, like, they're crazy. Like, I'm not doing it. But it's just a 5-minute workout, like literally a 5-minute workout. She just put her shoes on. She was still in like her mum clothes, like didn't put a sports bra or anything, just like still in like these little like pajama short things. And she just went outside and just jumped in the rower and just rode for 5 minutes. And I was holding Harry, a little one, and Jack was outside bouncing on his trampoline, like watching. Like he loves when any of us exercise, which is another huge thing for parents. Like the kids will love it, and they'll definitely learn to love it too. And just literally 5 minutes, and then we went straight upstairs for showers. So she was kind of like sweaty and a mess, but we just went upstairs for showers, and then we're in bed. Like it's just such little things, but like that's going to add up. Like and that same 5 minutes now seems like a joke, but I've done workouts in 5 minutes at the CrossFit Games that like wrecked people, like 5 minutes of like death. Like it's not the time that makes the workouts, it's how hard you go. And there's a future in that habit. Like Laurie can hold that up, keep that up for a long time, because it's not a big sacrifice. Whereas people that try to make these big changes, it's you can get there eventually. Like there are people at the gym and parents who came back from a kid who are like time poor and work busy jobs, whatever, and now they train like 7 days a week. Like they hang out and do extras. Like they somehow found a time in their life, right? Because it's possible. Like everything's just a game of Tetris. Like you can shuffle things around. You'll find the time for the things that are important to you, but they weren't that important when they started. They didn't know it would be that important, but they grew into it because they just kept it up. Just kept consistent, just wanted to get fit again, like an hour a day. Like I can make it here for an hour after work before I go home and have a glass of wine and forget this ever happened, because I hate training. But now they love it. So it's like, it truly is just, my advice for everyone is don't do as much as you think you need to. You never need to do as much as you think. You just got to do something, and you got to do it consistently. Just keep it up. You can always add more later. It's like what my nan used to tell me, like when serving food, just like, don't take that much on your plate. Eat it, come back. She was like, I'm not going to throw it out. Like I'll be waiting for you. You can have seconds, thirds, and fourths. But what do we all do? Like this is both a metaphor and literally the problem with Western society. Put way too much on the plate. Whether it's literally food, people put too much on the plate and make themselves finish it, even though you should have stopped eating halfway through because it's so you're overeating, or they like metaphorically put way too much on their plate and and just practice failure, because when you keep trying to hit a goal that's unachievable and you keep failing, all you're teaching yourself is that you're a failure. Like you keep failing, you're never going to win because you failed the last 20 times. But if you do even the silliest like simple goal, it's like the US Marine thing on why you make your bed every morning.
Oh yes.
Because then you win. Every day you've won, and that makes you feel good. It's so silly, but that's literally like the psychology. Like any win is a win, doesn't matter how small. But also every loss is a loss. Like every little thing you say you'll do that you don't get to is you teaching yourself that, you're that friend that you wouldn't take their word for it. You know what I mean? Like you are your own best or worst friend. Just like a mate who lets you down like every time, you're probably never going to give them much like faith. Like, oh yeah, we'll see you there, sure. And then get that text being like, oh, sorry, can't make it. Like that's essentially what we do to ourselves. We're that friend that's like, 1st of January, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to get fit. And in your mind, you're thinking, yeah, mate, yeah, you're the biggest flake I know. And that's yourself. You know what I mean? Like you got to be that guy that, he borrows $1 and he pays it back, like, oh, here's that 10 cents I owe you. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, but they, that's the integrity of it, right? And you got to do that to yourself. Give yourself the 10-cent goals. And it's as simple as that. Like, it really is. Like, the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Don't think that far ahead. Just get through tomorrow. The rest will take care of itself.
I totally agree. Like, I feel like out of everything, I think it's consistency and writing down the small wins. It's so what drives you forward.
There's actually a great quote just came to my head now. A great like joke. It's like in life and in, I want to say it's like in life and with coffee, consistency is key. It's some joke or some pun about food.
Yeah.
About consistency of something, but essentially like that, it's truly the secret in so many walks of life. Like, you can name any area of life you want to succeed in, you know, financially, career-wise, fitness. It's consistency. It's not, you know, the big random act of like, you know, a spasm of action one time, like you just crazy thing like that doesn't pay off. Like, it's not even the stories you hear of people who took big risks and it paid off. What's behind that risk is years of consistency, putting themselves in a position where they can pull off risks that when you actually look at the projection of their kind of like, you know, like a business that kind of hit big on something, a great idea or whatever, you hear about all the time, like those, you know, miracle stories. What's behind them is like a very logical progression of how they got to the point where that risk or that amazing accident wasn't that accidental, really.
Yeah.
You know, like, philosophically speaking now, it was kind of like they put themselves on a path where that was gonna happen. Like, it was meant to be because they set themselves up from the start, you know?
Yeah, and I think with social media sometimes people get confused with that and they don't realize like everybody is like a business in some sort of way, whatever direction that may be, and it is steps and it is moving forward to that big goal. And if you're so fixated on just seeing the big picture and not realizing what had got you there, then I guess that is kind of setting yourself up for failure, because it's the small things that count.
Yeah, exactly. There's I once again, I'm just throwing out quotes that I can't remember where I got them from, but there's definitely this quote that's, I can't remember who said it, but they go, give me 10 years to make it and I'll make an overnight success.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, I can make, I think it was someone from Hollywood, like a famous director once or whatever. They're basically saying like, I can make a star out of anyone. Give me 10 years and I'll turn anyone to an overnight success. And that's kind of exactly the, you know, how many, I mean, Hollywood's a great example, how many actors, you watch those little like gold cast, you know, videos of them, and they're like, oh yeah, they landed this role and they were like instantly like, you know, the bee's knees, and they've been in everything since then. And like, they're telling their story was that 15 years before that role, they're like waiting tables in Hollywood and going to 50 auditions a day and getting told that they're too ugly and fat to be an actor, and now they're in a Marvel movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's exactly the point. Like, those stories are way more common than the one random story of someone that like, yeah, maybe was just super hot and their Instagram blew up in like 4 days and they literally are an overnight success. Like, that is so,
but generally those
small
people,
percentage. Yeah.
But generally those ones don't even know how to hold that fame.
That's
or
right.
Whether it is their fitness, they've won something, they won't be able to continue that forever.
That's right. If there's no substance, if there isn't that, you know, like metaphorically 10-year journey to that overnight success, then just as quickly as you can be popular, you can be unpopular. Because if your success, let's say, for lack of a better word, hinges on something that's kind of fickle, the second someone does it better, you're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the second, you know, if people really bought mobile phones based on like the features, which we all tell ourselves we do, the camera, then the second the better camera comes out, that phone is toast, right? But that's not how we buy it. We buy things emotionally, because those companies spend billions of dollars on that, like, you know, that 10-year growth to make the iPhone seem like it's just the best phone. It's not the best phone. It just feels like it is because they've invested 10 years in, you know, us as consumers to like make us believe like this is the best phone for you. But that's not how the world works, you know. Like, one great invention doesn't make you $1 billion company, because another company will just steal your idea and do it better, and then you're done. You know, so it's you can't hinge success on fickle ideas like that. There has to be this substance, this, you know, this journey, this growth behind it. It's consistency. 100% it's consistency. You trust your iPhone. If some random company came out of the blue tomorrow with a better phone, you just wouldn't trust it.
No, you wouldn't.
Like, no, the battery was probably going to die, or probably the Chinese are reading my messages, like, the government, like all the conspiracies, like what, you just wouldn't, you'd be like, yeah, it'll break in 2 days, like not worth it. No, I'm sticking with the tried and true, because that's the fact. And Apple had that problem when they came out with the iPhone. People were like, what? A computer company with a phone? Like, no, I'm sticking with the Nokia and Motorola, the tried and trusted,
Yeah.
And they had to win over the market consistently. They were very consistent with just...
They were smart. They got, when they brought out the iPhone, they ended up taking it to all of the like top schools. Did you hear about this?
Yeah,
and they gave it to all the teenagers. And I was like, how smart. And then they just sold it for them.
The guy who co-founded Beats with Dre did the same thing. He was Dre famously would always turn down any like offers for product to be a name on a product or whatever. And this guy came up to him and was like, look, trust me, we can make billions out of this headphone thing. Like, you're a music producer, you're a rapper, it makes sense. And he just went to like anyone who was like cool, like any celebrity, whatever, and just like, and was just so persistent, like annoying, and like bombarded them and said, just wear these headphones, trust me, the best, whatever. And just got cool people wearing them. And then people were just like, oh my God, when we see a photo of 3 people wearing them, your brain just goes crazy, and you go, everyone's wearing them. Yeah. It's like, no, there's like 4 people wearing them, but they're the 4 coolest people. And so all of a sudden everyone's wearing them. And then when a million people go out and buy them, then now everyone is wearing them. Yeah. And once upon a time, I remember reading it it's one of the books by Simon Sinek. He has a lot of TED Talks. It's called Start With Why. And he talks about
I love this book. Yeah.
He talks about the iPhone, the Apple. And he goes, when they hit 11% of the market, that's the moment when psychologically it felt like everyone had an iPhone. So only 1 in 10 people had an iPhone, but at a party, everyone pulls out their phone and there's a bunch of hodgepodge phones, but like 3 iPhones. Yeah. So there's uniformity. It looks like, the iPhone. Everyone has the iPhone. And then so from that moment, it just exploded, and they have something like, 40% of the market share now. And so kind of they fulfilled their own prophecy. And now everyone does have an iPhone.
And they keep upgrading, and it's like, oh my God, I need the new one.
Yeah, because exactly right. But, that's a whole different subject. But the point was that they were consistent. Like, Apple have made a career out of jumping lanes, essentially. Like, they're a computer company that then started making MP3 players. The iPod obviously was their most successful product, arguably, and then they started making iPhones, like a phone. But imagine if Dell made a phone. Would you buy it?
No way.
You'd be like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek says this in the book. He talks about it. He goes, no, you wouldn't buy it. You wouldn't buy. I mean, ironically, people do buy the Microsoft phone now, but like even a Microsoft phone sounds weird. But no, Apple did it somehow because they're very consistent with their products, and they don't give up when the first iPhone tanks. They brought the better iPhone, and they just keep pushing through the objection, and eventually it pays off. They lose a lot of money at the start, I imagine, but it eventually turns, and then huge profit share. Same thing with the iPad. Like, what is it? What even is an iPad? Like, why do we need that? It doesn't exist. Like, it's a product. It's a market that never existed. Like, people buy laptops and they buy phones. The smartphone can do what the laptop can't, and the laptop can do what the smartphone can't. Why would you need a big smartphone that's not as good as the laptop? Like, it's a step in the middle that no one needs. Yeah. And yet they convinced everyone we need it. Yeah. And everyone bought one. Yeah. and some people still use theirs, like, granted, but I mean, come on, really? Like, no one uses the iPad for the things it's advertised to be used for. Yeah. Like, if you want to do serious work or whatever, there's a billion laptops that do it better. And you even got the Surface laptops now that can turn into an iPad or flick back into a laptop. Like, it's just, the iPad market never existed. Apple created it out of nowhere. They just told you, we need this product. This product has a reason, trust us. And we went, yes, we'll take 2. Like, even though it has no reason to exist. And then they started making the iPad minis, and I was like, now it's a joke, because at least with the iPad, it was like, well, I want to watch a movie on my iPad. The phone's too small. Yeah. But now the iPad mini is like, well, what's even the point then? I have a mini too. We have one at home. And it's like, what is this? Because it's just a smaller screen. Like, the whole point of the iPad was a nice big screen, right? So, but it's so funny. That's how it works. But the point was, my original point, was that Apple was successful in all those things because they are consistent. And they don't, when the iPad tanked, which I don't know if it did, but let's just say, I assume it did, then on the first gen, they still released iPad 2. And by the time you release the iPad 3 even, like, people are like, this thing is normal, like it exists, like it's up to the third thing by now, and they go and buy it because like I remember when the Apple Watch came out, and I remember talking to people being like, how dumb is that? You want me to buy a watch that tells you when I get texted, even though the phone vibrates? That you can read your heart rate. For why? Who cares? Heart rate what? And now there's a whole like industry built around watches that read heart rates and map your run.
Yeah.
Which no one's ever going to use that data. People, casual runners who are like mapping their heart rate, they're never going to use that data. Like they're not training to a heart rate zone. They're not like, choosing the run path based on what energy system they want to be in that day or what. Nothing technical. People just love it. Just love the look of it.
Yeah, they love the statistics. It makes them feel good. I have a Garmin.
Yeah, and I really want one. Like the other day in JB, I was like, I got to buy one. Like I'm hooked too. But the fact because it becomes a thing. If you just consistently keep attempting, you'll get success because it breaks that barrier of what's that great. All new ideas are what at first ridiculed, second rejected, like violently, and then thirdly accepted as truth.
Yeah,
and that's true of your own stuff too. Like you tell yourself,
and the people surrounding you, what their feedback is towards you.
So you tell yourself you're going to start a new gym routine. In your mind, you're ridiculing it. You're like, yeah, sure you will. Like, yeah, you like get off the couch and go for a run. What a joke. Yeah, new year, new me. Haha. Like, we even laugh about it now. It's a meme. It's not even a real thing anymore. Like, it's a meme now. And then secondly, you resist it violently. Like, no, I'm bullshit. I'm getting injured, and exercise sucks, and this is dangerous, and I just want to sit on the couch. And then you keep it up long enough, and it's just, like I said, it's part of your life. Where all of a sudden, people who couldn't find half an hour to train spend 3 hours at the gym and love it. Like not because it's a chore. They want to be there for 3 hours. Like that's what happens. You just gotta get to step 3.
Yeah.
By not giving up.
I remember having this client, and she wanted to train, and so I got her into training, and then we started like getting her, changing her food and everything like that. And then every week she told me how much she hated training, and I was just like, okay, that's great, but just keep doing it. And she's like, this isn't working. I don't believe this is right. And just kind of smashing me. But I was like thinking, I'm going to get her. Like, how it makes you as a trainer more determined.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get them. After 8 weeks time, I think 8 or 10 weeks time, she'd lost 10 kilos. And she was like, she had a bit of a shoulder problem, a frozen shoulder and stuff. And she's like, holy hell, I haven't had neck problems. I can move my body. I feel great. I look great. And I was like, oh, that is so amazing. I was like, hallelujah. But it's that interesting middle period that you just got to have faith and keep pushing.
Yeah, 100%. And which is so funny. This is very human nature. It's so funny. Like, I mean, it is an important concept. Like you have to have faith and trust the process. But it's not even like people are being asked to take a big risk. This is like a known thing. It's like a universal truth. Like that if people eat right and exercise more, you'll lose weight. We're not breaking new ground here. This is like, not only I'm sure that are there like literally countless studies to prove the science behind it, just anecdotally, like have you ever met someone who did all the right things and got fatter somehow? Like guarantee there'll be people that would, start training and still get more unhealthy because, they're falling down elsewhere. But I've never met someone who trained and ate well and got sicker, fatter, more unhealthy than when they weren't training and eating badly. Like we just know it to be true. And yet you still feel like, but what if I'm the one person in history who fails at exercise? Like it's not even a thing you can fail at. It's not even a skill. Like just moving your body more and eating right is not a skill. Like it's a chemical process in the body. Like it's as simple as putting wood on a fire. Like the wood's gonna burn. Like the fire won't just fail to burn the wood. Like, oh, the fire gave up. Like this is so, rudimentary, but human nature, we're so scared that we're going to be the ones that prove the whole system wrong, and that we're going to suck, and it's all we're a failure and everything sucks. It's like I'm not even asking you to go out on a limb here. Yeah. this is pretty like a guarantee. Like as a trainer, you people will ask you those questions of like, do you think it's possible? Like they always say that, I want to lose 10 kilos. Do you think it's possible? It's like, of course it is. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, this is not even like, it's not even a gamble.
Yeah.
Like, this is, it's easy. This is the easiest thing you'll ever do. Just turn up and do what I tell you to do. Like, it's no skill to it. And, but that's how human nature works. Like, we're always scared of failure and any unknown, like if you could, have a little app that like shows you like in the mirror, like, oh, this is exactly what you'll look like if you do, if you eat and exercise what you want, and every day you don't do that or do it, the app would change, like a live prediction of you in 10 weeks.
So wicked.
It'd be crazy. It'd be awesome, and probably it would solve every problem because you would be able to exactly see, okay, I better do whatever. But we don't have that. We have that in our head. You can imagine what you're going to look like in 10 weeks, but you can't see the future. And even though we know this stuff works, when I say this stuff, I mean like exercise and eating right, but any level of unknown, any level of doubt messes people up. It's just how the human brain is designed to work. We like to work with guarantees. Everyone wants a guarantee. Comfort zone, exactly. Comfort zone is guaranteed, right? Like, you might not like the way you look and feel and how your life is, but at least what'll happen when you wake up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Any change is scary. Even the stuff will make your life better is still scary. It's how we've been programmed. We're a survivalist race. Like, it's just what. So it's, the hardest part is, any change is scary, and the hardest part is starting. Those are tropes, but they're true. And so if you're trying to make some change or do something new, just know that. Like, know it's normal that you're scared, and you're not the only one who's worried about, like, you're not a freak for thinking that. Like, everyone feels the way you feel. Like, it's so normal, but we always think we're the only one.
Yeah. I think what a really great technique is, if you are feeling scared of change, weigh up if you didn't change. Write down the things, if you didn't change, what would happen to you?
100%.
And how would your life be? And I think sometimes when you do that and you actually, like, especially write it down, you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm prepared to live the rest of my life like that. It's like when they say, like, if you were to die next week, what the hell would you do? You'd go, holy shit, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. So you would be changing. I think, if you can write it down and look at how your life would be if you continued without making a change, then
100%. Yeah, there's two ways. There's two ways to get motivated. It's something you want to run to, or something you're running from. And you can use any combination of them. And it's often easier to start with the what do you not want to be like.
Yeah.
Because what you want sometimes is not a clear goal, and you'll see oftentimes people are afraid to like dare to dream what could be possible. So it's much easier to say, okay, what do you not want it to turn out like?
Yeah.
And then just aim anywhere away from that, and you'll find your way. You find your way along the way. Yeah.
And I think too, like, you don't know a clear goal because you maybe never been that, or
exactly.
Like, you're just starting CrossFit and you've never been at an elite level,
exactly,
and so you don't know what's involved.
100%, exactly. And it's and it can be overwhelming and scary, and even just the to pick one thing, like to pick a goal, like you feel like kind of locked into one track of how things are going to go can be itself intimidating. So just think, you don't know what's going to happen. Let's find it along the way. But exactly to your point, like, what do you not want to happen? Let's just work on making that not happen. It'd be as simple as that.
I think that's quite easy for most people to do if they really wanted to.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's been so awesome having you, Royce, on the podcast. We've had lots of gold nuggets on today. So for people to follow you, it is in Instagram to watch your journey? Yeah, Instagram is where I pretty much put all my training stuff, any like random updates, bit of family stuff scattered in there. If you have any questions or anything like that, Instagram DM is the way where I'm most active, and it's the place to get me. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening in, guys. If you're on Apple, please leave a 5-star written review. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. All right, I'll see you next week with the next inspiring story.